Welcome to Sikbaggers YouTube channel. I'm Steve, and today we got a 2011 Street Glide back here on the lift, and we're going to be installing, yes, an UltraCool oil cooler. Now, there's already several videos going over the UltraCool oil cooler. I'll briefly go over it today, but the main purpose of this video is actually showing you step-by-step install. That's how we do it on our channel here, A to Z. We're going to get this thing installed on this bike back here, but this is something that we all deal with on Harley Davidsons on how hot they run. I think a lot of you would actually freak out if you realized how hot your heads were while you're riding your bike, especially in extreme conditions. And that's just stock bikes. If you have any engine work done at all, you're going to be running a lot hotter. So you may be sitting there thinking, well, I've already got an oil cooler on my bike. I don't need that. You absolutely do need this. That oil cooler on that bike is okay. It's better than nothing. And you can actually add this oil cooler in conjunction with the oil cooler that's already on your bike and reduce the temperatures even more. And some of you are out there probably thinking, well, I've got an Ultra Limited. It's got water cooled on it. I don't need this. You absolutely can and should put this on your bike, because once again, whatever temperatures you're pulling right now, you can reduce those temperatures in conjunction with the stuff that's already on your bike another 50 degrees. And if you add their FLO Oil Filter, you're going to be reducing those temperatures another 10 degrees. So you're talking about 6-degree temperature decrease on these hot engines, and that is huge. Now, like I said, this is an install video, and I could probably stand here for another 20 minutes telling you all the technical stuff about these oil coolers and how it helps your engine. And like I said, I'll briefly go over it. Head temps on these bikes can reach upwards of 300 degrees, and what that's doing is it's heating up that oil to a flash point, and it's breaking down that oil a lot faster. You can watch one of our 3-hole oil change videos. Come in here, change all your fluids, go out, get stuck in traffic in a 100-degree day or road construction or something like that. Those oil temps are hitting 300 plus degrees. You're already starting to tear down that oil immediately. You just put fresh oil in there and you're already starting to tear it down. Now, we've got the Road Glide ST build over there. That's the performance bagger build, and I've actually been kicking around the idea of adding one of these UltraCools to that bike. Fortunately for me, I have a good buddy that came in and he's got this 2011 back here. Now, in 2011, this was the year that was kind of split. Some of the bikes came with oil coolers, some of them didn't. If you got the 96cc, which is what we have back here, you did not get an oil cooler. Now, like I said, you can run this in conjunction with oil coolers. You can run it with oil coolers, water cooled engines. You can add this to anything. The new 24 ups, 23 CVO and ups, you can add it to those as well. Just to briefly go over our connection plate right here, this is going to go right behind the oil filter. We're going to pull the oil filter off, pull the center stud out, replace it. We'll be taking this apart and putting it back together on the bike. And then of course, that's where your oil filter is going to go. And here is your in and out lines right here that go down to the actual radiator part of the oil cooler. So this is going to mount right underneath the voltage regulator. These lines are going to go right up there to that plate that I just showed you. And hopefully on the back side there, you can see that there are dual fans on that, right? So it's not just an oil cooler, but we do have fans actually forcing air through there. The little electric connector back here, this is basically like your thermostat, if you will. That's going to tell it when to kick on and when not to kick on. You want to keep those temperatures around 200, 210 degrees. I think at 210 degrees, that's when the fans are going to kick on. So anything over 210 degrees, that thing's going to kick on and it's going to start forcing air over that and max cooling these bikes. No matter which kit you get, these come with everything that you're going to need to get this stuff installed, including Loctite and a special tool to get those hoses on, right? One thing to mention too real quick, this oil filter is sold separately, and yes, it comes in different flavors. You can get chrome, black, contrast cut. There's all kinds of flavors you can get of the oil filter, and of course the oil cooler cover. This one's all chrome, this chrome oil filter. It's got a lot of chrome on the bike back here. Benefit of this is another 10 degrees, and this is the last oil filter you'll buy for your bike. You can actually clean this oil filter and reuse it. Now, the Harley Davidson racing team, the performance bagger racing team that's gaining quite a bit of popularity right now, they're actually using this UltraCool system and the oil filter. So that should tell you something right there of how good this stuff works. Now, another cool thing after talking to the guys over at UltraCool that they've done for the Sikbagger family is if you want to order this, after watching this video, you can put in SIK10 and it'll take 10% off your complete order. So like I said, this might be a little bit of a lengthy video. None of this is hard to do. Definitely something that you could do at home. So let's get the camera over here and let's get started. So this bike just recently had an oil change. We're going to try to salvage all that oil by just removing the oil filter. Now I've got our little oil filter funnel down here. I'm going to crack this loose and I'm going to slowly let this oil filter drain off. If you're due for an oil change, by all means, this is the best time to go ahead and do it. But this one just recently had an oil change. So I'm going to cut that loose. I'm going to cut the camera and let it drain. All right, so we got the oil filter off, no problem. It's drained most of the way off. We got that filter out of there. We're going to get some paper towels. We're going to clean up a little bit of a mess we got here. Not too bad. So we're going to take a 7/8 socket and take this piece out of the middle right here. This is where your oil filter just screwed onto. Get that piece out. Once again, get up in there and mop up any oil that you can get out. Inside the kit, you're going to have a new threaded bushing for that one we just removed. So we're going to take this off. There's your new threaded bushing. You can see one side is shorter than the other. Shortest end goes into that where we just took that out, right? We're going to use a little thread locker on this. You can use blue or red according to the instructions. I think blue is probably plenty. We're going to take a 7/8 deep well. We're going to run this in. Just till it touches. We're going to torque this 18 to 22 foot-pounds. So now we're going to take our adapter. We're going to go ahead and take that O-ring off the back and set it off to the side because it will come off. We don't want to get that dirty. Make sure you have a clean surface to do this on. We're going to take a 5/32 Allen and we're going to remove the 6 screws. There's 4 1 1/8 screws and 2 3/4 inch screws. And these do have washers on them. So if that washer doesn't come out, look down in that hole and get that washer out of there. It's a little split washer. So when you're pulling this apart, this is going to be basically in the book labeled A, B, and C. This front half is going to be A. We got the gasket in the middle, which is B. Slide this on into the 11 o'clock position. We're going to put this nut with the blue thread locker here into that, and then on that piece that we just screwed in. Make sure that you have your rubber O-ring on the back side. So these 2 teeth on the back are going to go right, one on the bottom of this and one on the top of this. It's kind of like a 3-piece Y section in there. You got one here, here, and here. What they mean by the 11 o'clock position is that thing isn't straight up and down. It's kind of clocked to the left just slightly. So we're going to take our nut, blue thread locker again. We're going to bring this into place. Now this is a 1-inch nut. The first one was a 7/8. This is a 1-inch. We'll snug that down. Again, 18 to 22 foot-pounds. We'll wipe off any of that excess Loctite that's on there. Now we're going to come back down here to our table. We're going to get parts A and B, right? So to hold this gasket in place, we're going to set that up on there. We're going to take our 2 shorter bolts that go in the top. We're going to run those through, right? We're going to line them up with the holes in the gasket on the back. Go ahead and push those through. Make sure you have those washers on there too, on all 6 bolts. Once you get 2 of them lined up, the rest of them should go right into place. Now that we have that on, we're going to add our blue Loctite. If you had the blue Loctite on your screws and then you push these through, you're essentially just wiping the blue Loctite off. So make sure you get the screws through the front piece and the gasket, then add your Loctite. Just a little dab on each one of these bolts. So now we're going to angle this in. Hopefully I can keep my hands out of the way while we get this in. You can kind of see what I'm doing, but I'm just basically going to line this up. We're going to take our 5/32 Allen wrench and we're going to get those top 2 screws started. All right. Don't run that first one in until you get the other one started. Now once you have those top 2 started, the other 4 should fall out right into place. You don't feel it starting, just give it a little wiggle and it'll start. Now we're just going to run these in until they touch and then we're going to torque them. Now we're going to take a 5/32 and an inch-pound torque wrench, and we're going to torque these in a star pattern. We're going to start right here with 1, go directly across to 2, up to 3, down to the very bottom at 4, and then back all the way across to the top at 5, and then back down to the very bottom right at 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now you've got 2 7/16 nuts holding your voltage regulator on, one here, one on the other side. So we're going to take the deep well 7/16 and get in here and remove those. So once we have those 2 nuts off, you can see that the voltage regulator will move straight up off of those bolts. Come to the other side of the bike so you can see what I'm doing. But we're going to basically mount this right back over those same 2 bolts. And then we're going to set that voltage regulator back down on that. Now hopefully you can see right here behind your kickstand plate there's a hole. We're going to run our oil lines up through that hole. It's plenty big. So that one has a straight connector on it. Your other one has a 15-degree connector on it. I'll get them up here in just a second. You'll be able to see that. So this one's straight, this one's bent at a 15-degree. These are going to connect right here on that plate we just took off. So the straight one is going to go to this middle port. The 15-degree one is going to go to this back one nearest the engine. So we're going to get in here real quick, take these caps off. And we do have caps on the oil lines as well. We'll take a little bit of that oil and just go ahead, put it on the end of these nipples here. Sorry, my arm's probably in the way. Get a little bit of oil on those. Like I said, these will spin on pretty far with your fingers. So if they spin on and they stop after a couple of turns, you're cross-threaded. So just go ahead and back it off, straighten it back up, and then thread it again. Don't force this on. Now I'm going to have to get in here to get to this one, and my arm's going to be all in front of the camera. So I'm just going to cut the camera real quick and get this one on, and then we'll finish tightening them up. Inside your kit, you're going to have this crow's foot cutout wrench, and that's what that's for. Basically, the cutout part's going to slip over this hose part and then up on there. So you'll have to turn it, back it off, turn it back, put it back on, and just keep doing that until these are tight. And you want to just snug these down. Slide it up on there. Go ahead and pull it back, turn it. Now I'm going to cut this in. All this is already installed, and it shouldn't be, but because I forgot to mention this, so I'm cutting this part in later in the video. But when you're tightening these hoses, make sure that you do not over tighten those hoses. If you over tighten them, you're going to pinch this line that's in here. This line that's in here will crimp and pinch, and if you do that, you pretty well have to call them up and replace these lines. There's no uncrimping that oil line. When you run these oil lines down, you'll see that there's rubber sheathing around this braided part, right? This rubber sheathing has to be moved and pulled up here behind the frame. So that rubber sheathing is moving on the frame and the engine and not just up here lollygagging around doing nothing. We want to make sure that that is up in the correct position to where that's rubbing on the frame. The very next thing we're going to do is get underneath this left-hand side cover and pull this main fuse. We've got our plug here that came with this kit because we ordered this for an 09 to 13. Remember, this is a 2011. Inside there, you've got this plug like this. It's got an orange and a blue wire. And the paperwork in here will tell you if you're doing this 94 to 13, 14 through 16, right? So you need to read this and make sure you order the right kit, of course, for your bike. On the 94 to 13, you have 3 options with our gray connector with blue and orange wire. The blue wire is a standard connection for a thermal switch. The orange wire connects to our accessory switch, and it goes on to tell you the different ways to connect this. We're going to install this one to where the thermal switch up there is going to activate the fans. So we're not going to manually have a way to turn the fans on and off. We want the thermal switch to do its job, turn the fans on when it's needed, turn them off when they're not needed. Inside your kit, you'll also see a harness like this. It's going to have a positive and negative. That's for your battery, and then it's going to have that blue wire. If you're using the thermal switch, you're going to connect it to this blue wire on here. The orange wire won't do anything. So we're going to connect this here, and this is going to get plugged in underneath the seat. The long harness, of course, is going to go from up here all the way back down there and connect to your thermal connector up there in the parts that we just installed. The first thing we're going to do is pull the top of the battery cover off here, and we're going to connect the one with the inline fuse, positive, negative, to the battery. We're going to take a Torx 40 and remove these two screws right here. Now this one has the adjustable backrest thing on it, and it was actually not installed correctly. This should be underneath this little battery cover right here. So we're going to loosen these two bolts, pull this up, and then this will all come off. So we're going to pull this up. We're going to set this back down in place where it was. We just want the plastic thing over the top. So the next time that this gentleman wants to take this off, he won't have to remove this, right? So now this is on top. We're going to take this part here. We got a tab here and a tab here. We're going to push out on those. We're going to lift this up, get this up out of the way, push this forward, and then up. Just like that. That'll come up out of the way. Now we have access to the positive and negative. We're always going to disconnect the negative first. Positive right back on. Plug. I'm going to pull it all up to the front and push this forward, down, back onto that tooth in the front. You can actually just go ahead and snap that back into place. Now, everything that you've just put on should be right up here in the front. We got our positive, negative, we got our blue, and we've got our plug with our inline fuse. Now we went ahead and ordered the Y splitter that we talked about in the beginning for the P&A plug underneath the seat. The P&A plug is right here. Sometimes it can be pushed down in there in front of the battery. There may actually be something already plugged into this, and that's what the splitter's for. Now this one's going to get a splitter. That way we don't have to worry about it if we ever want to plug something else back into this bike. You can see that it's going to have two females and a male. You can't mess this up. Right here's the plug. It'll be capped off like this if it's not in use, or it'll have something plugged into it in which you would go ahead and need this splitter. So we're going to go ahead and put this in, push it all the way in, listen for that click. There's that click. Now we have a splitter that we can use for other things. And whichever one we're not using right now, we're going to go ahead and cap that one off with that plug that was in the other one. So that one's plugged off. Like I said, we're going to do this blue wire to blue wire so the thermal switch does what it's supposed to do. So we're going to cut off that blue. It's going to go to the blue here. So we're going to strip that one back. Now, while this does come with a blue crimp connector, I prefer these little waterproof solder connectors. You can use either one. If you want to pick up some of these, you can get these on Amazon. We're going to tie these two together. This. And slide that up into place. And we don't have to worry about putting heat shrink over these. Just because these little blue bands waterproof it, and that actually solders the wire together. It just helps to use a torch so you can get high enough heat to do this. If you just try to use a lighter or something, you'll have a little bit of trouble with these. See that solder melt. We get those blue ends melted down to where they give a nice little watertight connection. So now that's soldered together with the solder that's inside that connector, and then water sealed or waterproofed on each end. So like I said, it does come with a little blue connector like this. I like these a little better. Now of course we're going to take this gray plug, and it's going to get plugged into that splitter side that's left over that we didn't cap off. Push it in, listen for that click, give it a little pull, make sure it's good and connected. Now we're all connected up here underneath the seat. Now the orange wire with this install, we're not going to be using that. Make sure to read the directions if you want to hook it up differently than the way we're doing it. Like I said, there's a couple ways to do this, but we want the thermal switch up there to do its job. So we're just going to use the blue on blue, and then that leaves us with this wire right here. So from here we got that really long harness that I said goes down and goes to the front of the bike. Now to the oil cooler, we've got that white connector that's left over. We got that white connector underneath the seat. That's going to eventually plug in right here. But we're going to do some wire management, run this down alongside the bottom of the frame up to the oil cooler. On the other end of that, we got the big black plug. Of course, that's going to go to the thermal switch. The other two are just the P&A. That's what's going to be basically ran off of that splitter up here underneath the seat. That's power and accessory. So one's going to go to LED, one's going to go to the cooling fans. Does not matter which one. One's LED, one's cooling fans. They both come on at the same time. The LED is not lit unless the cooling fans are on. So just to save a little bit of time, I'll show you exactly how I ran this wire harness after I get it installed. But for now, I'm going to cut the camera, get this installed, and then we'll go over that. So what I did is remove this screw and this screw, pull this out slightly, not a lot. There's a little bit of play in there, just enough to get that connector through there, put those 2 bolts back in. Now this wire here is ran straight down and behind the swing arm bolt, right down to the frame. As much as you want to poke it in there between the inner primary and the swing arm, your belt's right there. So I wouldn't recommend poking it in there trying to hide it, because you may take the chance of running into that belt. So I ran it along the outside. Side cover is going to go here, cover up that. So you'll see that little bit right there down the frame. Right inside here, you've got those 2 gray plugs. I fished the plug up from the fans up through here. That'll easily connect on that side. So I can pull some of that harness there. Go ahead and get that one plugged in. Listen for that click. Your other gray one, we're going to take that one up to our light. Now your thermal connector here, that's the black plug like we talked about a while ago. So we're going to go ahead and get that plugged in. Once again, listen for that click. Get that one plugged in, and that leaves that gray one. So we're going to take this wire, we're going to put it down here behind the voltage regulator. All right, kind of hide some of this wire. We don't need all that sticking up. So I've zip tied it to the frame once here behind the jiffy stand, and then once here in the middle, and then once here right below the swing arm. And we can zip, now that we have it, we can pull this taut, we can cut all those off, and we have it up here underneath the seat. We got to find our little white plug. We're going to plug that in. Give it a little pull, make sure it's connected. Now we can put this relay in front of the battery down here behind the firewall, your firewall right here. Put your relay down in there, tuck it down in there. The only thing left we have to do is install our oil filter. This filter that's inside here has a 7 times more flow rate than your paper filter that we just took off there. So right here on top, you see this magnet that's going to collect. It's going to pre-filter your oil before it goes through that filter to collect any metal debris right there. The fins on the outside here double as an oil cooler too. We talked about that earlier when we said that these will reduce the engine oil temperature by another 10 degrees. And of course, because this is a cleanable filter, this filter will eventually pay for itself. No more buying the cheap paper filters and putting them on. So with your paper filters like this, there's a bypass valve down in there. So when the pressures get extreme in these paper filters, the bypass valve opens and it allows unfiltered oil to go right back into your engine. This one has a progressive rate bypass in it, so it avoids that, right? So it doesn't allow unfiltered oil going back through your system. Right here on the end, you do see that you do have the standard oil filter wrench that you can use on this, that you used on your paper filter, or you have the nut that's welded onto the end, which makes it a lot easier just to put a socket on here and get this off. This is also drilled out if you have to install a safety wire. So if you're doing this on a racing bike, so like the Harley Davidson racing motorcycles, they have to have that safety wire that goes off this. So that's already pre-drilled for you to put that safety wire on. So if this ever comes off, it's not going on the track, right? So already pre-drilled into the filters. And inside the kit, you're going to get 3 extra O-rings. The O-ring is replaceable. So we lube up that filter with a little bit of clean oil. And the $1,000,000 question, do I pour oil in here before I install this? Now, you can. It's going to go everywhere because the way that these filters go on, it's not like a car where it goes up sideways. It's not a paper filter where it's going to retain a bunch of that oil in there, right? You can put oil in this if you want to, but I promise you it's not going to hurt your motorcycle if you just lube up the O-ring and put it on there. When you start that bike, that's quickly going to pump up, go through the oil cooler, go through the filter, and then back into your bike. Trust me when I tell you, it's not going to hurt your bike to not put oil in this filter. Just install the filter. Now all we have left to do is install the light that lets you know when the fans are on. So basically they send a little bracket like that, right? You're going to take off this little chrome thumb screw thing on the back. You're going to slide it all the way off, slide your bracket on, slide the thumb screw back on, and tighten it back down. And they do leave it depinned like this. You got a little connector that goes on there that goes down to that other gray one, which is super easy to do. It's way easier to put them in than it is to take them out. But they have to leave that off so you can get the wires through whatever bracket you're going to be using, right? So we're going to install this up here, run this wire down here, and we'll zip tie off the excess and put it down in there. I'm going to take this bottom screw out right here. Little dab of blue Loctite on there. Simply put the screw right back. Some small zip ties down the wires that are already on the handlebars. Our wires for our thumb controls that go right through here, we can feed that wire through there, come out down here. Now I'm going to run this down, zip tie it to this main wire harness here, go behind the tank bolt. We have to make sure that we leave enough slack in here that when we turn the handlebars, this moves. Now before you pin this plug on here, make sure to orientate your wires. That's your clip. Down here you see your clip that you have to push in. So you want to line that up on there and make sure black goes to black, and in this case red goes to blue. All you have to do is slip this little orange thing out of the back right here. Use one of the pins, just a piece of rubber. You're going to pull it all the way out, feed your 2 pins through that orange seal, and then push it in. On those pins there's a flat side. Keep the flat side up towards this pinch clip part right here. Slide it in, listen for the click, give it a little pull, make sure it's connected, do the black side, and then slide your rubber orange piece back down into the hole. Now I did that a while ago and I didn't press record, so that's why I'm showing you that now. Down here you're going to plug this into the other gray port that's on the bottom. Remember, we had one going to the light, one going to the fan. Now at this point I would go ahead and top up the oil, drive it 10-15 miles, make sure everything's coming on, make sure everything's working. But I want to test everything before I do that. I want to make sure my fans come on, make sure my light's working, all that good stuff, right? So inside your kit, you're going to have this little jumper like this. Basically, you're just going to unplug the thermal sensor down there at the bottom on your black plug where we plugged it in earlier. Take that jumper, plug it in. Then we come back here, we reinsert the main fuse. Now we should be able to kick the ignition on, our blue light should come on, and we should hear those fans come on. Everything was working exactly like it should, so we'll take our bypass jumper out. We'll go ahead and plug that back in to the thermal sensor. Now that will only come on the way we installed it. It will only come on if this gets up to a certain temperature. The thermal sensor does its thing, tells everything to kick on, the fans and the light and everything. When that light's on, it means those fans are on, right? So we got our oils topped off, we took the bike back out, and we wrote our numbers down again. Keep this completely fair to you guys and completely honest to you guys. The temperatures between the other day and the temperatures today are different. It took me a little longer than one day to shoot this video, and unfortunately I can't control the weather. But I did wanted to show you the temperature changes regardless, because our temperature changes are significantly more than the outside ambient air temperature drop that we had. The first day was at 98 degrees. We rode it for about 25 minutes, brought it back in. We're hitting 237 on the oil. Today we're 88 degrees outside, so a 10-degree difference outside, but our drop in temperature is down to 190. So that just goes to show the oil filter and the oil cooler are doing its job. It's keeping the bike cooler, and those fans never got a chance to kick on because the internal temperature on this bike never got over 206. So without it, we were well over the 206 mark, and with it, we're down below the 190. Even though, yes, we did have an outside temperature change of 10 degrees, I wanted to keep it honest and fair with you guys. Like I said, fans on this one never came on today, but the oil cooler and the oil filter are definitely doing its job just based off these numbers. Now that's going to wrap up our video today on the UltraCool system. Make sure if you want to take advantage of that 10% discount, put in the code down at the bottom of the screen, SIC10. That'll take 10% off your order. Now, after further discussion with those guys over at UltraCool, we're going to be doing a couple of more of these, so this won't be the last time that you see this. Today's install was fairly straightforward because this bike didn't have an oil cooler on it. So we're basically adding an oil cooler to it. And the next video that we do is going to be on our 22 Road Glide ST, our Torque 27 performance bagger build. That thing can definitely benefit from the UltraCool system. And then we're also going to be doing one on the newer 24 models too. So make sure that you stay tuned for those videos. So like I said, you are going to benefit more from this if you have some work done to your engine. If you've got a simple cam in it or more, you definitely can benefit from this system, but you don't have to have it. This bike here just simply didn't have an oil cooler at all on it. So if you have any questions on this install today, you guys know the deal. Comment section down below, or just give UltraCool a call. Maybe you have a different engine, you don't want to wait on my future videos, and you're interested in this system, just give them a call. They're way more knowledgeable about this system than I am. I'm just looking at the install side of it today, showing you how easy it is. If you like this video, make sure to hit that like, hit the subscribe, tell your friends about us. I'm gonna get out here, get myself cleaned up. Hope to see you in the next video, but until then, as always, be safe, keep your knees in the breeze. Hey, thanks for stopping by and checking out our videos today. If you like what you see, make sure you hit that like button, hit the little subscribe button popping up over here. If you wanna check out more of our content, I've got 2 videos right here that'll get you started. Not really gonna say anything else, just click one of those videos and take you to another video.